I thought I was just house-sitting, until she walked in early, and everything changed. The story opens with the male narrator arriving at the house he's been asked to house-sit. He's in his mid-20s, carrying a mix of responsibility and nervous curiosity. The house itself is striking, not overly extravagant, but warm and lived in, with soft touches that hint at a personality behind the walls. Sunlight spills through large windows, dust motes dancing lazily in its golden glow. There's a faint aroma of something floral lingering in the air, probably the vase of fresh flowers on the dining table. Even before meeting her, the house feels alive, almost like an extension of its owner. As he steps inside, there's a careful hesitancy in his movements. He doesn't want to seem intrusive. He notices little details that make him pause. A scarf draped over a chair, a pair of slippers neatly beside the door, a delicate teacup resting on the counter as if someone just set it down. Each object feels intimate, almost like breadcrumbs leading him to understand the woman who lives here. He's struck by the subtle warmth these items convey, sensing that the woman is graceful, confident, and quietly meticulous, even if he hasn't met her yet. He moves slowly, exploring the spaces as if he's entering someone else's world, which he is. There's a softness to the house, the way the couch cushions hold their shape, the gentle hum of the refrigerator, the faint creak of wooden floorboards beneath his feet. He notices her favorite book left open on a coffee table, its spine worn from repeated use. These small signs create a sense of presence, as though she is nearby even while absent. It sparks a mix of admiration and nervousness in him. He's aware that he's stepping into a space that's deeply personal to someone else, and part of him is excited, part cautious. The narrator also pays attention to the environment with sensory detail. The warmth of the sunlight on his skin, the subtle fragrance lingering in the air, and the soft, comforting textures of the furniture he brushes against. There's a quiet anticipation building in him, a sense of being on the threshold of something unexpected. His internal monologue subtly hints at curiosity about her. He wonders what she looks like, how she moves through her home, what her voice sounds like. He imagines small gestures, the way she might tuck her hair behind her ear or the gentle ease with which she navigates her space. As the audience experiences these observations, the story subtly foreshadows the eventual meeting. There's a quiet tension built from absence. The very fact that she's not there makes him notice her even more. This part is about immersion, allowing viewers to step into the narrator's shoes, feel his nervous excitement, and sense the warmth of the woman's presence even before she appears. The stage is set for a slow-burn romance, rooted in subtle observation, sensory detail, and emotional curiosity. After stepping cautiously into the house, the narrator begins to settle in, feeling both curiosity and an unspoken reverence for the space he's been invited to inhabit. He moves slowly, taking in the subtle details of a life lived fully yet gracefully. There's a rhythm to the home that feels almost musical. The quiet tick of the wall clock, the distant hum of the refrigerator, and the soft creak of floorboards under his weight. Every sound seems amplified in the stillness, and he becomes acutely aware of how alive the house feels even without its owner present. As he walks through the living room, he notices the way sunlight stretches across the floor, illuminating the warm tones of a handmade rug and catching the gentle dust floating in the air. On the coffee table, a book lies open, its spine soft from repeated reading. He runs his fingers lightly over the textured cover, imagining her sitting here, curled up with a cup of tea. A faint trace of her perfume lingers in the air, soft but unmistakable, and it catches him off guard. There's something intimate about sensing her presence without her being there. He hesitates, almost apologetic in the quiet of her home, but curiosity propels him forward. The narrator starts exploring the kitchen, brushing against a linen towel hanging from the oven handle and noticing a small tray of neatly arranged spices. He finds small signs of her life everywhere. A half-finished crossword on the counter, a vase with flowers in full bloom, and a pair of delicate earrings on a jewelry dish. Each object hints at her personality, organized, thoughtful, with a subtle elegance that doesn't demand attention but naturally draws the eye. He can't help but feel a sense of awe. The house reflects a woman who lives fully and deliberately, and he is merely a quiet observer in her world. As he moves, he occasionally stumbles into minor mishaps. A spilled drink, a misplaced utensil, which gives him brief moments of vulnerability and self-conscious humor. He laughs quietly at himself, aware that if she were here, she might tease him gently. The idea of her presence lingers in his mind, and he imagines how she would move through the space. The soft shuffle of her feet on the hardwood, the casual ease with which she navigates around objects, the warmth in her posture even when focused on small tasks. Despite her absence, tension builds subtly. He senses the underlying intimacy of the home, the way every detail feels personal and intentional. There's a quiet longing in the narrator's reflections, a curiosity about her beyond the objects she leaves behind. He finds himself pausing by windows, noticing how light falls across the furniture, imagining her standing there, looking outside with quiet grace. It's a meditation on anticipation, an emotional hum that fills the space. By the end of part 2, the audience feels the narrator's admiration, his nervousness, and his growing awareness of the woman's presence, even in absence. The slow-burn tension begins to simmer. He's not just house-sitting. He's stepping into a world that belongs to her, a world he can't help but be drawn toward. The stage is set for the first encounter, and viewers are already invested in the emotional dynamics that will unfold when she arrives unexpectedly. The calm, almost meditative rhythm of the house is suddenly interrupted by the faint sound of keys jingling at the door. The narrator freezes mid-step, a slight tension gripping his chest. He had expected to have hours alone, imagining her presence only through the objects she left behind, her scent lingering in soft corners. But now, the door opens earlier than he anticipated, and there she is, effortlessly, casually, yet commanding the space in a way that immediately draws his attention. She steps inside, a woman in her early 40s with a graceful confidence that seems innate rather than performed. Her movements are fluid, practiced, yet natural. A subtle tilt of her head as she shakes off her coat, a faint smile as her gaze falls on him. There's an instant awareness on both sides, a silent acknowledgement that this encounter is unexpected. He notices the warmth of her skin, the delicate sway of her hair brushing against her shoulders, the faint perfume that now envelopes the room more vividly than the residual traces he'd noticed earlier. For the narrator, time slows in those first few seconds. He feels a mix of nervous excitement and hesitation. Should he greet her formally or casually as though he's been there all along? His instincts hesitate, aware of the age gap, the potential for social misstep, and yet drawn irresistibly toward her. Their eyes meet, and there's a spark of mutual curiosity, an unspoken understanding that this moment is charged, quietly but undeniably. Physical cues begin to layer the emotional tension. When they reach for the same object, a mail envelope on the counter, their hands brush lightly. It's a fleeting touch, but it leaves a subtle warmth lingering on his skin, and he notices her slight pause, the faint, knowing smile she gives before withdrawing her hand. Every movement she makes, even simple gestures like tucking hair behind her ear or adjusting her scarf, seems charged with a quiet elegance that contrasts with his tentative energy. The narrator can't help but notice how alive the house feels now, not just through objects, but through her presence. Her voice is soft, yet confident, as she greets him and inquires about how the day has been. There's a natural rhythm to her speech, punctuated by small laughter and pauses that feel deliberate, drawing him in without overt effort. He responds carefully, aware of the tension between wanting to appear composed and wanting to let his admiration show. Sensory-rich details heighten the moment. The sound of her heels on the hardwood, the sunlight catching strands of her hair, the subtle scent of her perfume mingling with the lingering aroma of the house. His heartbeat feels louder than the quiet hum of the refrigerator, his thoughts scattered between mundane small talk and the magnetic pull of her presence. The slow-burn tension has begun to crystallize. The audience senses the unspoken chemistry, the nervous awareness on his part, and the quiet grace she exudes. This moment is the first pivot from anticipation to real interaction. where admiration, curiosity, and subtle romantic tension converge, laying the groundwork for deeper emotional intimacy. The stage is perfectly set for the next part. Shared spaces, laughter, and small touches that deepen connection while keeping the story warm, human, and YouTube safe. After the initial surprise of her early arrival, the house settles into a new rhythm, this time with both of them present. The narrator feels a mix of excitement and nervousness as he navigates the subtle dance of shared space. She moves through the house with natural ease, and he can't help but observe the way her hand brushes against the smooth edge of the counter, the soft tilt of her head as she looks out the window, the quiet confidence in her posture. Every gesture feels effortless yet magnetic, drawing his attention without him meaning to. They begin small talk, the kind of casual conversation that gradually reveals personality and creates intimacy. She asks about his day, his plans for house-sitting, and his impressions of her home. He responds carefully, aware of the social dynamics at play, but gradually the nervousness ebbs as the conversation flows. Their laughter is soft and genuine, filling the quiet corners of the house with warmth. Each laugh, each shared glance, carries the subtle tension of familiarity crossing into connection. The shared spaces become a medium for closeness. In the kitchen, they pass utensils and cups, occasionally brushing hands, the contact lingering just long enough to send a quiet thrill through him. As he sets a mug of tea on the table, she leans slightly closer, pointing out a small detail in the recipe he's attempting. Their heads almost touch, and for a heartbeat, he notices the warmth of her shoulder, the faint scent of her perfume mixing with the steam from the tea. The narrator is acutely aware of these small moments, every brush of skin and glance magnifying his growing admiration. Sensory-rich details heighten the intimacy of the scene. The gentle clink of ceramic mugs, the faint aroma of freshly brewed tea, the softness of the sunlight falling on the table, all contribute to a quiet, immersive atmosphere. The narrator notices the subtle way she adjusts her scarf, the way her eyes light up when she smiles, and the soft timbre of her voice when she laughs. These details are small, almost imperceptible, but to him they create a profound sense of closeness. Underlying it all is a tension rooted in mutual curiosity. Both are aware of the age gap and the tentative boundaries of their interaction, yet neither wants to break the natural flow. He feels a pull toward her, a desire to linger in these moments, while she seems to enjoy his attentive presence, subtly encouraging it with shared smiles and lingering glances. There's a playful undertone in their conversation, an unspoken acknowledgement that this encounter is special, different from ordinary interactions. After the easy camaraderie of shared spaces, the story deepens as the narrator and the woman move into a more intimate emotional territory. A quiet afternoon unfolds, the sunlight softening through the curtains, casting warm streaks across the living room floor. The house, once merely a backdrop, now feels alive with the subtle energy between them. Each sound, the faint ticking of the clock, the distant hum of the refrigerator, the soft rustle of fabric as she adjusts her posture, serves as punctuation to the growing tension and intimacy. A moment arises where she becomes vulnerable without forcing it. Perhaps she recounts a memory from work or speaks of a personal challenge she's navigating. Her voice is soft but steady, tinged with a quiet openness that invites trust. The narrator listens intently, noticing the small tremble in her hands as she gestures, the way her gaze momentarily drops, and the way her lips press together before she smiles lightly again. There's a fragile honesty in her demeanor that draws him in, compelling him to respond not with advice or judgment, but with empathy and careful attention. He offers small gestures of comfort, subtle, safe, and YouTube-friendly. A reassuring hand briefly touches her arm as she pauses mid-sentence, a gentle nod of understanding, or a soft smile that lingers just long enough to communicate care. These interactions are understated but heavy with meaning, allowing the audience to feel the magnetic pull between them without crossing boundaries. The narrator senses that these moments of shared vulnerability are rare, precious, and quietly transformative. Sensory details enrich the intimacy. The faint scent of her perfume now mingles with the aroma of freshly brewed tea. The sunlight catches the gentle curves of her hair as she leans forward, emphasizing the softness of her profile. Even the warmth of the couch beneath them seems to echo the emotional closeness forming in the room. Every subtle sound, the clink of a spoon in a mug, the soft rustle of her clothing, the almost imperceptible intake of breath, adds layers to their connection, immersing the audience in the quiet intensity of the scene. The emotional tension simmers beneath the surface. Both are aware of an unspoken pull, yet they navigate it with care. The narrator feels his admiration deepen into something more tender, and he notices her reactions. Lingering glances, gentle smiles, the way she subtly leans closer in conversation. There's an almost electric anticipation in these understated gestures, a slow-burn romance forming without the need for overt words or actions. The emotional groundwork is firmly laid. The audience is fully invested in their bond, having witnessed the narrator's attentive, sincere responses to her vulnerability and the subtle ways she encourages his presence. The story has moved beyond curiosity and admiration, stepping into genuine emotional intimacy. The tension is palpable yet restrained, creating anticipation for the upcoming climax of feelings in the next part, where emotional honesty and subtle physical closeness will peak. The story reaches its emotional crescendo as the house, once a mere backdrop, becomes the arena for quiet revelations and intimate tension. The day is winding down, and the warm, amber glow of the late afternoon sun fills the living room. Shadows stretch across the furniture, highlighting the gentle contours of the space and the figures within it. Every movement, glance, and sigh seems magnified, the slow-burn romance now approaching a tender, delicate peak. The narrator finds himself alone with her in a quiet corner of the house, perhaps sitting on the couch after tidying up or while sharing a cup of tea. There's a pause, a silence weighted with unspoken thoughts. His heart races subtly, the nervous excitement amplified by the awareness that the ordinary act of being near her now carries extraordinary meaning. The atmosphere is intimate yet safe, a space where vulnerability is invited and emotional honesty is possible. She speaks first, perhaps in a confessional tone, sharing a small personal truth or doubt, something that exposes a deeper layer of herself. Her eyes hold a mixture of hesitancy and courage, her hands resting lightly in her lap or brushing against the edge of the couch. The narrator listens, fully present, feeling a quiet ache of admiration for her openness. In response, he shares something of himself, an honest reflection, a fleeting worry, or a gentle admission of the way he's been affected by her presence. Their words are soft, almost hesitant, carrying the weight of sincerity without the need for dramatic flair. Subtle physical gestures heighten the emotional tension without crossing boundaries. A hand brushes lightly against an arm, lingering just a heartbeat longer than necessary. Their shoulders occasionally graze as they reach for the same object, and neither pulls away quickly, allowing a quiet electricity to hum in the brief contact. When she laughs softly at a shared observation, he leans in slightly, drawn to the warmth of her presence. The combination of these small touches, shared glances, and gentle smiles communicates longing and affection more powerfully than words could. Sensory details enrich the scene further. The faint scent of her perfume is stronger now, mingling with the aroma of tea or the soft smell of the couch fabric. The sunlight, low and warm, catches in her hair, illuminating each strand and making her seem almost ethereal. The soft rustle of clothing, the delicate sound of a spoon against a cup, even the quiet exhale of breath during a pause, all contribute to a slow, immersive intimacy. Emotionally, this is the story's turning point. The narrator recognizes his feelings as more than admiration or curiosity. There is a tender desire, a longing to be closer emotionally, and perhaps even physically in subtle, appropriate ways. She, in turn, responds with small but meaningful cues, lingering eye contact, gentle smiles, a softness in her voice that affirm a mutual awareness of the connection. The slow-burn tension that has been simmering through the story finally crystallizes into something tangible yet still restrained, leaving both characters and the audience fully invested in what might come next. The audience experiences the peak of emotional tension. Vulnerability, admiration, and desire interweave seamlessly, setting the stage for resolution. The slow burn romance has reached its tipping point, and the final act will reveal how these feelings translate into meaningful choices, closure, or a tender acknowledgement of connection. As the evening deepens, the house is bathed in the golden hues of sunset, shadows stretching across familiar corners, lending the space a warmth that mirrors the quiet intimacy that has developed between them. The earlier tension, now fully acknowledged in Part 6, has shifted into a tender, reflective calm. Both the narrator and the woman carry a gentle awareness of what has passed between them, a subtle but undeniable connection that neither can ignore, yet both approach with care. The narrative begins with shared silence, the kind that is comfortable rather than awkward. Perhaps they are seated near each other on the couch, the soft fabric beneath them contrasting with the electricity in the small space that separates their bodies. He notices the little details, the curve of her wrist as she rests it lightly on the armrest, the way her fingers absently trace the edge of her cup, the faint warmth lingering where their shoulders brushed earlier. Each gesture, each glance, is amplified by the quiet intensity of the moment, signaling a mutual recognition of emotional depth without the need for explicit words. Dialogue remains soft, reflective, and heartfelt. They exchange gentle acknowledgments of the day, sharing appreciation for the moments they've spent together. He might compliment her taste in books or notice her laugh, while she comments on his attentiveness or how he quietly brings life to the space while house-sitting. The conversation is laced with subtle cues of intimacy, lingering eye contact, smiles that hold a quiet promise, and pauses where words are unnecessary because understanding passes silently between them. Physical gestures remain YouTube-safe yet meaningful. A brief hand on her arm, a light touch as they reach for the same object, or the simple act of sitting closer than required. These actions communicate warmth, trust, and growing affection. Perhaps she brushes a strand of hair behind her ear while he watches, heart racing slightly, aware of how naturally these small movements pull him in. The audience senses that these touches are loaded with emotion. Curiosity, admiration, and the slow burn tension finally finding subtle release. Sensory-rich details reinforce the atmosphere. The aroma of her perfume mingles with the fading scent of tea and the soft warmth of the room, while the sunlight dims into soft amber and shadows deepen in corners. The gentle hum of the refrigerator, the quiet tick of the clock, and the faint rustle of their movements create an intimate soundscape. Every element of the environment mirrors the emotional closeness between them, allowing viewers to feel both the physical and emotional resonance of the moment. The ending provides emotional resolution. Depending on the chosen arc, together and secure, she invites him to stay for dinner, their hands brush, and there's a playful mutual acknowledgement of their feelings. The connection is fully realized, leaving the audience with a satisfying, heartwarming closure. Together but uncertain, they admit mutual attraction, sharing a lingering glance and gentle touch before parting for the evening. The future is open, leaving a sweet sense of hope and anticipation. Emotional resolution without romance. They share a warm, intimate goodbye, acknowledging the bond and impact of their time together. Emotional satisfaction is achieved, even without romantic continuation. Separation with lasting impact. Circumstances keep them apart, but the day has altered them, leaving a quiet, lasting imprint that shapes their understanding of love and connection. By the conclusion, the audience feels complete emotional closure. The slow burn arc, from anticipation to tension, from vulnerability to intimate acknowledgement, resolves naturally. Every glance, every touch, every subtle gesture has been carefully layered to create a lasting impression of warmth, respect, and emotional resonance, leaving viewers both satisfied and deeply immersed in the story's gentle romance. If you felt the tension, the warmth, and the quiet moments between them, don't forget to hit like and subscribe for more slow burn age gap romances. Share your thoughts in the comments. Who do you connect with more, the patient admirer or the graceful woman who steals hearts with subtle gestures? And click the bell so you never miss a story that makes your heart race in the quietest ways.